Hey guys, this is Solution PODFIC, and today we're going to be reading This Kind of Weather by R_Astra. This is Chapter 3. Jason only had to wait outside the school for a few minutes after the bell before he spots Steph and flags her down. "Holy shit," she says, nearly tackling him. "I totally thought you were dead." Jason laughs, hugging her back for a second before she pulls away. "You were supposed to call, asshole." "Yeah, so..." Jason scratches the back of his neck. "I don't actually have your number." Steph stares at him for a second, then bursts out laughing. "Oh my god, we're stupid." "Just a little," Jason says, mouth curling into an automatic smile. "Yeah," Steph shakes her head. "So how's the new dad?" "He's alright." Eyeing his clearly new clothes, she says, "Not stingy with the cash, I see." "You got no idea." "Oh yeah?" "Yeah," Jason says, pulling out the new phone and passing it to her. "Holy shit," Steph whispers, creating it like it's made of solid gold. "What the fuck?" "I know, right?" Her fingers fly over the screen. "I'm putting my number in there." "Go for it." "Done." She hands the phone back. "Now catch me up. What's the rich boy life like?" Jason scrubs a hand over his hair, suddenly exhausted. "I don't even know where to start." Steph yanks him into another hug. "It's nice, if a little weird. He and Steph were friendly, but not exactly friends before all this. Jason had never really had time for friends, always picking up as many shifts at the diner as he could, scrambling to put enough money together to keep the heat on and the rent paid. But he could really use a friend right now, so he lets his head fall onto her shoulder for a minute, just breathing. "You want to come to mine for a bit?" she offers. "We could watch a movie or something." Honestly, Jason would love to go over to Stephanie's shitty apartment and pirate an equally shitty movie. But Wayne had been visibly anxious, just letting Jason out of the car alone. "He'd probably freak," he tells her. "He's kind of overprotective." Stephanie laughs a little. "Seriously?" "Yeah," Jason huffs. "He's worried I'll run again, I think." "Well, I'll come over to your house then," Steph says decisively. "What?" "Yep," she says. "He's nearby?" "Yeah, he's parked in the..." Steph scans the parking lot for less than 10 seconds before spotting the Tesla and Wayne, leaning against it and sticking out like a sore thumb. She makes a beeline for him, dragging Jason behind her. "Hi, Mr. Jasons." Wayne looks up from his phone. "Oh my god." Steph looks at Jason wide-eyed. "Oh my god." "Yeah," Jason sighs. "Holy fuck." "Uh-huh." She smacks Jason's arm hard. "Why the fuck, Jay? Were you just not going to mention that?" "You already saw him." "Yeah, but I didn't..." Steph cuts herself off. "How did I not... Ugh, what the fuck?" "I guess you're just unobservant." "You bitch," Steph gasps. "You take that back." "Jason?" Wayne looks very confused. "Sorry," Jason says automatically. "Wayne, you remember Stephanie Brown?" "Steph..." "Wayne." "Bruce, please," Wayne corrects, reaching out to shake Steph's hand. "Pleasure to meet you officially." "Holy fuck," Steph breathes, shaking Wayne's hand robotically. "Are you coming home with us, Miss Brown?" "Yep," Steph says. "Yes, I am, Bruce. Thank you." Steph is fine. Jason makes a face. Is it weird that Steph is already calling him by his first name and Jason isn't? Maybe. Whatever. "Alright," Wayne agrees easily. "Do you need to call your parents?" "I already texted my mom," Steph says, which is definitely a lie because she hasn't pulled out her phone once. "After you then," Wayne says and opens the back door for her. Steph shoves Jason in ahead of her, then climbs in behind him and thanks Wayne, leaving the passenger seat empty. Wayne looks a little amused by it, delegated to the role of a chauffeur. The ride back to Bristol goes fast, with Steph and Jason messing with his new phone, adding more apps and playing around with the camera. Steph does actually text her mom at one point, telling her she's hanging out with a friend, then starts texting Jason things like, "Is this a private road?" and, "What the fuck, that is not a house," as they approach the manor. Once they're inside, Jason starts leading Steph to his room. "Jason," Wayne calls when they're halfway up the stairs. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" Yeah," Jason says. "1 second, Steph." He jogs back down the stairs. "Yeah?" "She seems like a nice girl," Wayne says, a little awkward. "Yeah," Jason says, not sure what's going on. "Steph's great. There are..." Wayne clears his throat. "Condoms in the..." "No," Jason says, too loud. "No, we're not. We're just friends." "Okay," Wayne says, very much like he thinks Jason is lying. "But if you need them, they're in the first aid kit in your bathroom." Jason's face must be bright red. "Do you know how..." "Yes," Jason says quickly, cutting him off. "You don't need to... I know how everything works, but Steph and I are just friends." "Okay," Wayne says again. "Just so you know then, there's Luke there too." for the next time you have a boy or girl or anyone. Next time you have anyone over. Jason wants to die. Can we please stop talking about this? Of course. Go have fun. Safely. Jason practically flies back up the stairs, face burning. Steph is waiting at the top on her phone. When she looks up, she immediately starts laughing. Shut up. Did he just give you the talk? Shut up. He ushers her out of the hall and into his room. He did, Steph says, downright delighted. No, you're 16. Jason scowls, showing her lightly. Stop laughing. He didn't give me the talk. What did he say then? Told me where the condoms are. Jason grumbles, flopping onto the bed. And lube for next time I have a boy or girl over. Oh my god, Steph's nearly cackling. Well, at least he's not a homophobe. Do you even like boys, though? Jason shrugs. I don't know. He always had more important things to worry about. Do you? Sure. A second later, she adds, You're not hitting on me right now, right? Jason snorts. Definitely not. Wow, harsh. Jason just flips her off. Steph cackles. So, movie? Yeah. What's the Wi-Fi password? Shit. I have no idea. Seriously? Jason groans, rolling off the bed. How do you not know? That's like the first thing you ask. I've been a little busy. Guess that's fair. Come on, Jason says, heading for the door. We'll ask Temmie. Who? Wayne's youngest. Holy shit. You have a brother? Jason grunts. Yeah, 2. Dick's older. 20-something. Dick? Jason knocks on Tim's door. Richard. Fucking rich people and their weird-ass names. Right? Tim opens the door. He looks like he just rolled out of bed. It's almost 4 in the afternoon. Jason, hi! Hey, Jason says. Temmie, Steph. Steph, Temmie. Hi, Tim says, shaking Steph's hand. Eyes a little wide. Tim Wayne, nice to meet you. Same. Have we met before? I feel like... Nope. Tim's voice cracks. I mean, no, I don't think so. Steph rounds a little but brushes it off. Huh, I'm probably thinking of someone else. Yeah, Tim laughs awkwardly. No biggie. Jesus, this poor kid. Hey, so, Jason says, taking mercy on him. We were going to watch a movie, but I don't have the Wi-Fi password. Oh, it's, hold on. It's just a bunch of letters and numbers. Tim waves them into his room, grabbing his phone off the coffee table. There's some crazy-looking action movie Jason doesn't recognize paused on the TV screen. Oh, you got your phone? Jason frowns. How the fuck did he... Tim flips the screen on his phone to show a pop-up notification asking if Tim wants to share the Wi-Fi password with Jason's iPhone. Oh, yeah. Jason pulls out the phone. There you go, Tim says. You probably want the streaming passwords too, right? Yeah. Jason hadn't even considered that. You have Netflix? Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, pretty much all of them. What were you guys wanting to watch? No idea, Steph says. Any suggestions? Jason's phone buzzes. It's a text from Steph. You think he wants to watch it with us? Oh, shit. Maybe. Depends, I guess. What do you like? You want to watch with us? Jason blurts out. Oh, Tim says, surprised. Well, the toilet in his bathroom flushes, cutting him off. Tim, you're out of soap again. There's some in the shower, Tim calls back, blushing a little. That's body soap, Tim, you animal. Tim slaps a hand over his face, giving Jason and Steph an embarrassed sort of look. Soap is soap, man, Jason says, because it is. Also, solidarity. Tim's a good kid. The door to the bathroom opens and the occupant steps out. Hey, he says, grinning. You must be Jason. I'm Connor. Connor Kent. Eyeing the kid a little suspiciously, Jason shakes the hand he holds out. This is the kid Dick thinks likes Tim. He's shorter than Jason, but not much smaller, with a serious amount of muscle mass. Twice the size of Tim, and maybe a year or two older. He's got a crooked, roguish sort of smile and straight, blindingly white teeth. Jason doesn't like him. That's me, Jason says a little short. Nice to meet you, Kent says, then turns to Stephanie. Steph Brown. Her tone is a little cold, and there's no reason for that except that she noticed Jason's response and adopted it without question. She's the fucking best. Talk about solidarity. Kent doesn't seem to notice, shaking Steph's hand with a smile before turning to Tim. Did you know Bruce has one of those instructional sex books in your first aid kit? Tim turns bright red, and Jason fights the urge to scowl. It's got a diagram and everything. What a little dick. He reaches out to touch Tim, grinning smugly, and Jason smacks his hand away, stepping half in front of the kid. Immediately, the grin drops off Kent's face. He drops his hands, holding them up and palms out where Jason can see. Hey, he says, not trying to start anything, man. Jason just glares at him. Okay, Tim says placatingly. How about we... Connor, can you just... He shoos him a little. Outside for a sec. Sure. Kent steps into the hall, no fuss. Tim grabs Jason's arm and drags him towards the bathroom, smiling at Stephanie. Just need him for 1 second. Sorry. Once the door is closed behind them, he turns on Jason. What the hell was that? He's angry, apparently. What was what? Jason says, crossing his arms. Seriously? Tim looks at him like he just swore in front of a priest. So, Bruce's communication skills are genetic then. What? Ugh, Tim says, dragging a hand over his face. Never mind. Connor and I have been friends for years, okay? You can't just start a fight with him. Jason scowls. I don't like him. Just met him. Fine. I don't like the way he looks at you. Tim stares at him, annoyance turning into disbelief. What? Uncomfortable, Jason just, tightening his crossed arms. He's trying to get in your pants. Yeah, Tim says, like he thinks he's stupid. Jason, he was flirting. He does that with me. Tim's face is bright red. I like it. Oh, there's a moment of uncomfortable silence then. Is this going to be... Tim says the exact same time as Jason says, if he does anything, They both stop. Sorry, Jason says. Go ahead. Is this going to be a problem? Tim's twitching a little like he's nervous, but his eyes are hard. Is what going to be a problem? Me? Flirting with a guy? Is that going to be a problem with you? What? Jason says. No, that's not... He shakes his head sharply. No, that's not a problem. Okay. Tim drawls the vowels out like he's unsure. Seriously, Jason says firm. Not a problem. He's older than you, and bigger, and Tim smacks a hand over his face. Oh my god. Shut up, Jason says. I'll beat the shit out of him if he hurts you, okay? Or pressures you into anything you don't... Oh my god. Shut up, Jason repeats a little embarrassed. You want to give Connor a shovel talk for me? Is that what's going on here? Jason scowls but doesn't deny it. Tim laughs out loud. Oh my god, okay. Pulls himself together a little. First of all, I can take care of myself. You don't need to go around protecting me like that. Doubtful. Tim's tiny. Second of all, Connor's actually younger than me. The fuck? Seriously? Third, he would never hurt me. He's my best friend. I know him better than I know myself, so trust me. Plus, we're not actually dating. Yet. Fine. Maybe he'll keep an open mind about the kid. And fourth, can I give you a hug? What? Jason says, baffled. Can I give you a hug? I mean, sure. Tim hugs him, squeezing tightly for a moment before pulling back. It's completely unnecessary and honestly a little bit insulting, but thank you for trying to look out for me. Oh, are we good? Tim asks. Yeah, Jason says. I'm serious about beating the shit out of him if he hurts you, though. Tim rolls his eyes, opening the door and stepping back out into the bedroom. Sitting on the couch, Stephanie looks up from her phone. All good? Yeah, Jason says, dropping down next to her. Might have overreacted a little. Steph snorts. You're good, Connor, Tim calls out, and Jason doesn't think it's loud enough to be heard through the thick wooden door. But apparently the walls are thinner than he thought, because Kent comes back in immediately. Just a misunderstanding, Tim says. Kent rolls with it easily, calling over to Jason. No hard feelings, man. Holy shit, Kent says to Tim. Just loud enough for Jason to hear. The grunt thing is genetic? That's terrifying. I know, right? Tim says like they're fucking commiserating or something. Jason doesn't get it. So, Steph says, drawing out the word. Movie? Oh, Tim says. Right. Connor and I were watching Fury Road. We can start it over if you want. It's barely started. Jason and Steph share a glance. She shrugs. We don't want to enter... No, seriously, we're only like 5 minutes in, Connor says. You can totally join us. Have you ever seen it? Neither of them have, which results in both Tim and Connor insisting that they have to stay and watch. Tim's couch is barely big enough for 4 people, but nobody seems to mind. Halfway through the movie, Connor pauses it. Incoming, he says, and suddenly the door is flying open and a small child is launching themselves at Connor. Connor! Connor scoops the kid up, tossing him so high in the air that he almost hits the ceiling. The kid is laughing hysterically, like it's the funniest thing in the world. Connor, guess what? He says as Connor swings him around and props him up on his hip. What, little man? Dad says Uncle Bruce has a new kid. He sure does. Yes! The kid screams. Finally, someone to... Hey, Jason says awkwardly, making eye contact with the kid. No, he whispers, looking at Connor in horror. Sorry, bud. But he's old, the kid wails. Why is he so old? The grin Connor sends Jason's way is a little apologetic. Be nice, John. Ugh. Here, come say hi. Connor carries the pouting little squirt over to the couch, dropping him on Tim's lap. Hi, Tim, he says sulkily. Hi, John. You had to meet my new brother. The kid, John, sighs heavily. I guess. Jason, this is John Kent. John, this is Jason. Hi, John says. Hi, Squirt. John eyes him critically. How old are you? 16, Jason says. Sorry, you wanted a playmate? John says again. Yeah, it's okay though. Thanks. That's a very grown-up of you. You think so? Oh yeah, Jason says seriously. I would have cried for a week. The kid giggles a little, then glances at Stephanie. This is my friend Stephanie. Hi, the kid says a little shy. Your hair is pretty. Steph grins. Thanks, kiddo. I like yours too. Very fluffy. John, someone yells from the hall. John, where did he... The man that steps into the doorway looks so much like Connor. It's alarming. Especially since he doesn't look old enough to be the kid's dad. Brothers, maybe? Oh, hey, he says, stepping up to Connor and tucking him into his side for a hug. Have you seen a small, feral child running around? He's about yay high, dark hair, crazy eyes, razor-sharp teeth. John, hiding on the couch, giggles loudly. What was that? The man that has to be Clark Kent whispers, glancing around theatrically as he approaches the couch. Was that the attack call of a wild? John launches himself at the man, clearly trying to snarl, but mostly laughing instead. Oh no! Kent. Clark. There are too many Kents for that, says, staggering backwards. He's got me! The kid laughs, delighted, actually gnawing on the man's shoulder as Clark pretends to struggle to peel him off until finally he holds the kid upside down by one ankle, swinging him side to side a little as he cackles. Phew, he says, grinning. That was a close one. Daddy! John half whines, half laughs, and Clark relents, swinging him up and onto his hip. Hi, kiddo, he says, ruffling Tim's hair. And you must be Jason. Holy smokes, you look like Bruce. They shake hands, and something about it is weird. He doesn't have any calluses, but it doesn't feel soft either, and it's warmer than... Clark Kent, he says, smiling. He's got some sort of accent that Jason can't categorize any better than roll. Slow and kind of nasally with lots of flat-sounding vowels. Good to meet you. You're all Bruce has been talking about for days. Jason doesn't know how to feel about that. Sorry about the interruption. He tore loose the second the car stopped. He turns to Stephanie. Hi, sorry. I don't think we've met. Did Bruce get another one and forget to tell me? Nope. Steph grins, shaking his hand. I'm just a friend of Jay's. Stephanie Brown. Gotcha, Clark says, letting John clamber onto his shoulders. Clark Kent. Lewis here too? Connor asks him. Oh yeah, Clark says, straightening his glasses after John's foot knocks him askew. She's flirting with B down the stairs, trying to pull ahead of me. You know how she is. Can't stand to lose, that woman. Tim and Connor make identical, disgusted faces. Clark laughs. Gross, Tim says. Clark just ruffles his hair again and heads for the door. I'll let you get back to your movie. Nice to meet you, Jason. Stephanie. See you at dinner. And then he's gone. Jason frowns. Are he and Wayne actually... We have no idea, Connor says. Dick thinks they're just messing with us. Dick's in denial. And Clark's wife? Jason asks. That part, I'm afraid, Connor says, dropping back into his seat next to Tim, is a matter of record. Nope, Tim says, not talking about this. I do not want to have to bleach any more mental images from my brain. Oh, come on, Steph laughs. This is gold. Easy for you to say, Tim complains. It's not your dad. What record? Jason asks Connor. Paparazzi caught them, Connor says. And Lois didn't exactly deny it. She is not shy about that sort of thing. Had some choice words for the tabloids that referred to her as Bruce Wayne's latest conquest. Holy shit, Steph says. Tim groans. Can we get back to dying historic on the Fury Road, please? Okay, wait. Let me get this straight, Jason says, leaning half off the couch so he's fully facing Connor. Wayne fucked his best friend's wife, and they're still friends? Do not, Tim says, the words muffled since he got his head in his hands. Use that F word when talking about Bruce. Do not. Lois and Clark weren't together yet, Connor clarifies, ignoring Tim altogether. And Bruce and Clark had met, but they weren't friends at that point. No, they hadn't met. I think the door opens again, then shuts quickly after Dick steps through. Oh my God, he says, flopping onto the floor in front of the TV dramatically. Someone put me out of my misery. You put me out of mine, Tim says, still muffled. That bad, Connor says. They're trying to kill me. Actually, literally kill me. In front of the kid? Steph asks, incredulous. No, they left John with Alfred and now are... Ugh! Dick buries his face in the rug for a second, then jerks it up, staring at Steph. Hi, who are you? Steph, Jason's friend. Let's get back to the drama. Did Bruce know Clark when he hooked up with Lois or not? Tim removes a hand from his face to gesture at Dick. Ask the primary source. Do not ask the primary source, Dick says. The primary source does not want to talk about it. Don't you think it's essential for Jason to understand the dynamics of his new... Jason smacks her arm. Don't use me as your excuse. Really, though, you should. No, Dick insists. Play the movie. I need to be distracted. Just tell them the best man story already, Dick, Connor says. We know you want to. It's a good story, Dick grumbles. Yeah, because you're a sap, Tim says, still muffled. Dick huffs a little but doesn't deny it. I'm a sap, Steph says. Come on, tell us. Fine. Dick levels himself up to sit cross-legged on the floor. He clears his throat. It was a cold day in early February, he starts. Bruce was in Metropolis for a business trip. Someone of LexCorp before everyone knew they were evil, I think. I don't know. I was 11. I didn't care. Wouldn't have batted an eye. Except he came back with a black eye and wouldn't tell me where he got it. So Clark and Lois were already together, Steph asks, leaning forward. Patience, children, Dick says. He's got a very kindergarten teacher thing going. I waited years for this story. If I hadn't snuck into Clark's bachelor party, I likely never would have known. But I did, so I know. And now, so shall you. Jesus, the dramatics in this family. Just get on with it, Tim mumbles. Connor pats his back in sympathy. So, here's what happened. Lois Lane and Clark Kent were co-workers, best friends, and were, according to all who knew them at the time, obvious about the fact that they were clearly meant for each other. Enter Bruce. Perhaps for an interview, perhaps as a date. Bruce takes Lois out to dinner. One thing leads to another, and they... Dick gags a little. It looks real, but Jason would bet money he's exaggerating. Go back to Lois's apartment. He stays the night. The next morning, Clark arrives at the apartment with their usual morning coffee and pastries. You see, Clark lives above Lois's favorite bakery, and every day for months, he'd been bringing an Americano and a pastry of her choice to work for her. But this morning, a crisply cold morning, in early February, Tim finishes. We know, Dick, cut the theatrics. In early February, freshly fallen snow glittering in the pale sunlight, Lois did not respond to Clark's text about what pastry she wanted. So, concerned for his friend, Clark buys his best guess for what pastry she would want and swings by her apartment building. He knocks. No one answers. He tries the handle and, gasp, the door is unlocked. Clark, not convinced that there is something terribly wrong, sets down the 2 cups of coffee and bag of pastries and quietly opens the door to the studio apartment. On the other side, a man he does not recognize wiping up blood from Lois's floor, the smell of cleaning supplies in the air, and the sheets ominously stripped from Lois's bed. Dick stops, staring at them. What are you doing? Tim complains. Pausing for dramatic effect. Shut up. Tim groans. Clark, convinced his best friend had been subdued, or God forbid, already killed by this stranger, freezes in place. The man gets to his feet, stepping forward, and Clark punches him right in the face, knocking the man on his ass. And just then, Lois calls out from the bathroom. Fuck. Any chance you've got a tampon on you, pretty boy? Tim and Connor quote in unison. And that, Dick says, grinning, was the moment Clark Kent realized he was in love with Lois Lane. What? Jason says, baffled. Why? Because Bruce didn't have one, but Clark did. Lois had complained about running out at inopportune moments once, and so he had been carrying a pack of her preferred brand in his messenger bag for months. Oh my god, Steph whispers. Non-toxic masculinity does exist. Finish the story, Jason says, annoyed that he's invested, but invested all the same. Dick grins at him and complies. So, Clark, keeping an eye on B, the stranger. That was clear, right? The strange man was Bruce. Pulls out a tampon and rolls it under the door. Clark just stares into space for a moment, then turns to Bruce, the only available outlet, and tells him he's in love. They sit down at the table, split Clark's muffin. When Lois comes out of the bathroom and asks him what the hell is going on, why Clark's there, and why Bruce is holding a bag of her frozen peas against his face, etc., Bruce stands up, tells her he had a great time, that he got the drops of blood out of the carpet, and her sheets are in the wash, and that Clark Kent is in love with her. And then he walks out. Well, holy shit, Steph says. That's gotta be the best man story in existence? Dick says, exactly. And that's all, folks. No more. Story ends there. They live happily ever after. Clark and Lois get together. Bruce went home to his adorable preteen son. And that's... Okay, but what about... No, Dick says, voice getting streaky. That's it. The end. B has definitely not been sleeping with Uncle Clark and Aunt Lois for my entire childhood, because that would be incredibly scarring. And B would never do that to me. Steph leans closer to Connor. So he's definitely in denial, she whispers. Oh yeah, Connor says, not whispering at all. They've totally been hooking up for like a decade. Dick flops back onto the floor groaning. Play the movie. I need a distraction. The amount of flirting that goes on over the dinner table is significantly less than what Jason was expecting. There are a few comments, sure, but nothing ridiculous. Maybe they're holding back because of the grade schooler at the table. Or maybe they really were just messing with all the kids. Who knows? After dinner, Wayne pulls Jason aside to ask him if he wants to discuss whatever Clark found with them. But Jason turns him down. He's glad they're looking into it, but he's not ready to think about it yet. After the funeral, maybe. I can give you a lift home if you want, Dick offers when Stephanie mentions catching an Uber. She agrees, so Jason follows him down to the garage. It's not that he doesn't trust Dick, but... Well, he knows he'll feel better if he sees Steph safely home, so he tags along. Steph claims the front seat, excited to mess around with the different settings, and lets Dick show off a little racing down the freeway and taking corners a little too fast. Where do you even learn to drive like this? Oh, well, you know, Dick says. We have to take defensive driving courses and everything at the police academy. Steph goes quiet, and Jason realizes suddenly that he never mentioned that Dick's a cop. He works in Bloodhaven, Jason says, leaning forward a little. Oh, Steph says, voice a little tight. That's nice. Dick glances at her, then at Jason in the rearview mirror. Yeah, he says, sounding a little uncertain. It's, this is my street, Steph says quickly. Just here on the left. The car pulls to a stop in front of Steph's building, and she and Jason both get out. Just gonna walk her inside, Jason says before closing the door. It's not even an excuse. He would have walked her in anyway, considering the price tag of the car they just pulled up in. He's a cop? Steph says disbelievingly. Jason grunts. But he seems so... She gestures vaguely. Yeah. Jesus, you okay with that? Jason shrugs. Gotta be, don't I? Scowling, Stephanie pulls out her keys. I don't like it. You think I do? Steph huffs a little, stopping outside the building door. You're gonna be careful, yeah? Yeah, Jason says, suddenly exhausted. I'll be careful. Steph pulls him into a tight hug. There's a funeral, Jason says quietly. On Saturday. I'll be there, Steph promises, pulling back. Me and half the alley. Just you watch. Jason smiles a little. Thanks. Be safe? You too. Text me the info for Saturday? Will do, Jason says, and then she's gone. He takes his time walking back to the car, but Dick didn't park far away, so he's sliding into the passenger seat sooner than he'd like. All good? Dick asks. All good. They pull back into the road in awkward silence, making it nearly all of the way out of the neighborhood before Dick opens his mouth again. One of the reasons I joined the force was to try and root out corruption from the inside. Dick glances over at him quickly, then back at the road. I'm more than aware that the police are not always the good guys, but they should be, you know? Jason stays quiet. If it makes you uncomfortable, it's fine. Dick hesitates, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. I'm just saying, I get it. Jason can't hold back the scoff. I do, Dick insists. I haven't always lived with Bruce, you know. When I was a kid, we didn't trust cops either, and for good reason. When people think consequences don't apply to them, they do whatever the fuck they want, Jason says quietly. Yeah, Dick agrees. Point is, I get that you don't need a specific reason not to trust cops, but if you have one, if you got any names to name, just let me know. Commissioner Gordon is my girlfriend's dad. He'd probably appreciate the tip. What? Seriously? Jason eyes him suspiciously, but Dick doesn't seem to be kidding. You'd be doing the city a favor. Nobody that would hurt a kid deserves to wear a badge. Jason stares at the road, arms crossed over his chest. I'm no snitch. You could be an anonymous source. Your name wouldn't have to be involved at all. Both of them are quiet until they start approaching the manor, and Dick says, just think about it, okay? Jason doesn't respond, just gets out of the car as soon as it stops and heads to his room. He doesn't know what to think about Dick anymore. Something inside of him starts kicking and screaming at even the thought of giving him anything he could hold over Jason, but he's kept tabs on Bad Touch Cop over the years. Well, enough to know that Jason wasn't the first or the last kid he tried to pull that shit on. Not all of them have been so lucky as Jason. He gets ready for bed slowly, then stares at the dark ceiling for a while, thinking. He doesn't trust Dick. Not really. But that's not the question, is it? The question is, given a shot to take the bastard down, can he live with himself if he doesn't try? He tosses and turns for a little while, then, growling a little, pulls out his phone and starts typing out a message to Dick. Ryan Dawson, white, early 40s, 5'10", maybe 5'11". He broke his hand a couple years ago. Not sure of the date. Body cam was on, but I figured they erased the footage. The currently typing dots pop up a second later, then we can find it either way. There are backups. Might get what you need just by following him. Jason bites his lip nervously, staring at the glowing white screen, then adds, he likes boys. Dark hair, blue eyes, early teens. The dots pop up, then disappear for a second, popping up again. The pattern repeats a couple times, then stops. A few minutes later he gets, I'll take care of it. And then, thank you for telling me. Whatever. Jason sets the phone on the bedside table and rolls over, burying his head in the pillow. Whatever happens next is out of his hands. Steph texts him during breakfast the next morning. Yo, Batman was in the alley last night. What? Seriously? That didn't happen very often. The last time was when he was looking for Jason, which, honestly, Jason had completely forgotten about. What for? Jason sent to Steph. She sends back a link to an article detailing the arrest of Officer Ryan Dawson on various charges, including child pornography and multiple counts of soliciting minors for sex. Holy shit. What the actual fuck? Dick must have called the commissioner right after Jason texted him last night, and the commissioner must have what? Gone straight for the nuclear option and lit the fucking bat signal? Jesus. Is this how they got Batman to look for Jason too? Unless Wayne really is fuck buddies with Batman. Then he could have just skipped the middleman. Does that mean he's got shit going on with Batman and Lois and Clark? Or maybe he's just funding Batman and not fucking him. That probably makes more sense. And Wayne didn't really even deny that part when Jason was messing with him about the tires. In that case, did Dick lie to him about calling Gordon and actually call Batman / get Wayne to call Batman? Or did Gordon bring him in on his own? All cops are bastards and all that, but everybody knows Gordon's decent. One of his cops, going around in uniform, touching kids, maybe it tracks that he'd take this seriously enough to light the bat signal. Who knows? Jason grumbles about it a bit internally, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Dawson's not getting out of this one, and that's what matters. Jason glares down at the picture of him in the article, hoping Batman beat the shit out of him before handing him over to the cops. Are you quite alright, my dear boy? Alfred asks, suddenly right behind him, and Jason panic closes the news app on his phone. Yeah, he says, I'm good. Alfred probably doesn't believe him for a second, but he doesn't push, letting Jason shovel the rest of his breakfast into his mouth in peace. He heads to the library after breakfast and tries to pick up where he left off in the Brothers Karamazov, but he's having a hard time concentrating. Dawson's been an ever-present worry in the back of his head for years now, sticking even after Jason got big enough to not be his type anymore. He just couldn't help but think about him, sometimes, even though it made him so angry he wanted to throw up, furious that there was no justice, that nothing Jason could do would stop him from hurting more kids. But Dick. It took pretty, cheerful Dickie Wayne, with his magazine smell and his goofy theatrics, one night, and the bastard is never going to hurt anyone again. And it's not fair. That sounds awful, because Jason's glad, viciously, outrageously glad that Dawson's going to go to Blackgate with this shit in his file. But it's fucking stupid that something that was impossible for Jason, a fucking eyewitness, took a single phone call for Dick. Just because he's got money and connections and a badge number? It's so fucking stupid. If they just listened to Jason years ago, how many kids wouldn't have had to gone through that? Fuck. Eventually he gives up Dostoevsky and texts Tim to see if he wants to play something instead. Sure, the kid texts back. Just let me grab some breakfast first. It is 11 o'clock. What the hell, Timmy? When he goes down to the kitchen, though, it's not just Tim eating breakfast, but Dick and Wayne too. Morning, he says, leaning against the doorway. Morning, Jay, Dick says, and then yawns widely. Tim and Bruce just grunt a little, clearly barely awake. Jason goes ahead and pours himself a cup of tea and then sits down next to Tim. How'd you sleep? Dick asks him. All right, Jason says honestly. He had a couple of shitty dreams that he couldn't quite remember, and he woke up a couple times in the early hours of the morning to footsteps in the hall. But other than that, it wasn't a bad night. Good, Dick says. It's hard settling into a new place sometimes, I know. Yeah, Jason's never really had that problem. He always sleeps about the same no matter where he is. Any plans for today? Jason shrugs. Video games once Tim wakes up. Tim's pointy elbow jabs into his side as the kid grumbles into his eggs. Sounds fun. Let me know if you need a third. Sure, Jason says, making Dick, who clearly wasn't expecting an invitation, jerk his head up to look at him. The more the merrier, right? Dick almost looks like he's going to tear up. Yeah, exactly. We're going to have so much fun. What are we playing? Jason has no idea. We played Mario Brothers yesterday. I love that game, Dick says. We can do Mario Kart too, if you want. Sure, you'll have to teach me how to play though. No problem, Dick assures him. I'm sure you'll pick it up fast. Can't possibly be worse than Bruce, Tim mumbles. Wayne grunts half-heartedly, eyes bleary-eyed and scruffy. His hair is sticking up in awkward little tufts. There are still lines on his face from his pillow. Maybe it is weird that Jason still calls him by his last name, even in his head. The guy probably cashed in a favor with Batman to find him after his runner, after all. Not to mention the funeral. And letting Steph come over. He might have even helped with the Dawson shit, if only indirectly. Maybe you should play so I don't come in last every time then, Jason says. Wayne blinks himself awake a little, staring at Jason. You want me to play Mario Kart with you? I mean, only if you want to. Yes, Wayne says quickly. I want to. Cool. Dick's got that megawatt smile again. To the den. Come on, baby brother, up and at him. Let's go kick Bruce's ass in Mario Kart. Tim grumbles a little, but gets to his feet and lets himself be herded with the rest of them into an informal sort of living room Jason hasn't seen before. Tim gets the game set up while Dick sits down next to Jason on one of the couches and explains the basic game mechanics, how to accelerate, steer, etc. Hey, Jason says quietly. Thanks for, Of course, Dick says, knocking their shoulders together lightly. I told you I'd take care of it. Yeah, he did. Anything else you need help with? Don't hesitate, alright? I've got your back. Jesus. Luckily, Jason saved from having to respond to that by Tim plopping down next to him, controller in hand. Let's go. Jason chooses Mario again for his character because he's basic as fuck apparently. Then picks basically at random for his car. They start with a level that's apparently easy, but Jason still ends up running into walls a couple times. He's too focused to notice what Wayne is doing, but every once in a while Dick just starts laughing hysterically and making fun of him for something or another, so he must be as bad as they say. Dick finishes first, Tim second, Jason 8th, and Wayne 12th. Dead fucking last. Even the bots, Bruce, Tim says. How? Dick just laughs. Wayne rolls his eyes a little, but he's a good sport about it, only grumbling something about real-life driving skills not transferring. Tim wins the next race, beating Dick by barely a second, and Jason comes in 5th, only having gotten stuck in the slow, grassy area once. Wayne manages to come in 10th this time. The next one goes pretty much the same, except Dick wins, and then the last track pops up on the screen. Rainbow Mountain, or something like that, and Wayne growls a little. My arch nemesis, he says, eyes narrowed at the screen. Tim is outright cackling. The trick to this one, Dick tells Jason, leaning closer, is to play it safe, at least when you're new. Try not to fall off. Jason takes his advice, taking the curves carefully and staying well away from the drop-offs where he can. He still falls off the track a couple times, but manages to finish in 6th. Wayne, on the other hand, is a whole lap behind the car in 11th place. Motherfucker, he swears under his breath, falling off for what has to be the 100th time. The problem, Jason's pretty sure, is that Wayne physically cannot play it safe. He keeps trying to drift around the curves and boost his speed and inevitably launches himself right off the track and into open space, over and over and over again, swearing in increasingly creative ways every time. By some miracle, he manages to pass the bot in 11th and not finish dead last, but is awfully close. Better luck next time, B, Dick says, patting his shoulder sympathetically. You'll get there someday. I could take you out later, give you some tips. Richard John, Wayne says, muffled due to his head being in his hands. I taught you how to drive. You know, it's hard for everyone when they start to lose the skills they had in their prime, Dick says consolingly. Aging is a natural. I am 38, Dick. Starting to lose track of the years, are we? Alfred, Wayne complains loudly. Dick is calling me old again. Master Richard, leave your poor father alone, Alfred calls from the kitchen. You know he gets sensitive to these things. Wayne makes a betrayed sort of sound, head still in his hands. Dick just laughs. The day goes by quickly. Between lunch and more video games and the quick trip to pick up his suit, and before he knows it, they're finishing up dinner, and Wayne is going over the schedule for tomorrow, for the funeral. Am I giving a eulogy? Jason asks Wayne at the end of the meal. Do you want to? Jason doesn't know. Maybe? He feels like he should. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? You don't have to do anything if you don't want to, Wayne says. The priest will have something prepared. I don't even know what I should say, Jason admits. I'm not sure I really even knew her. Wayne looks like he has no idea what to say to that. How about, he says finally, you think about it. Write anything you might want to say down, and then tomorrow you can decide if you want to read it or not. Okay, he can do that. But when he sits down and tries to write something, the page remains stubbornly blank. Finally, he gives up and tries to sleep, but that's a disaster too. After tossing and turning for a while, he rolls over and opens his bag where it's propped up against the bedside table. The letter is right where he left it, and he pulls it out from between the pages slowly. He just sits on his bed and holds it for a little while, feeling the slight grit of the cheap paper under the pads of his fingers, the slight indent of his name. And then he turns on the light and opens the envelope. He has to know. My dear Jason, the letter starts. It's in English, not Spanish, and it makes him smile a little, thinking about all the times she teased him for how bad his reading and writing were when he could speak his mother's language so well. He sniffs a little, wiping his nose with his hoodie sleeve, and starts again. My dear Jason, my precious son, I hope you never read this letter. If the world were a kinder place, and I were a braver woman, I'd be telling you in person. I always told myself when you turned 18, once they couldn't take you away from me, I would tell you everything. But if I'm honest with myself, I never would have told you. I'm afraid. So afraid you would be angry with me, and I couldn't stand the thought of losing you. I still can't stand the thought of losing you. I know I haven't always been the mother you needed. I haven't been able to protect you like I wanted to, like a mother should. I'm afraid that these last few years, you've been my protector, my provider, more than I've been yours. There's nothing I can do to make up for that, but know that I never wanted things to be this way, and that I'm sorry. Jason has to stop for a moment, using his sleeve to wipe away from his tears before they can fall on the page. He takes a deep, shaky breath. I'm so sorry, Jason. I should have done more, been better, and I should have told you this a long time ago. By now, I'm sure they've told you the basics of the information I left for the lawyers. I doubt that Willis not being your father upsets you. I loved him, though I know I shouldn't have, but I hated him too, for hurting you at the very least. Even all those years ago, I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry for that. I'm also sorry to say that no matter how much I love you, how much I wish it wasn't true, I did not bring you into this world. I don't know the woman who did, your biological mother. I don't know her face or her name, and I don't know why she left you. This, in the name of your father, is all I have left for the lawyers. The rest of the story belongs to you, and you alone, to tell or not tell. It's better to be honest here, I think, than kind, so I will give you the truth. Your biological mother left you on the steps of a fire station. It was only September, but it was already so cold, and you were so small. I was on my way home from the bar when I found you, and I was drunk. I had miscarried 3 times already, and just the day before, had been told by the doctor that I would never be able to have children on my own. I'd gotten into some legal trouble already by then, trying to make a living, and I knew I'd never be cleared to adopt. But I wanted a baby, Jason. I wanted a baby so badly, and when I saw you lying there, left behind by someone who didn't realize what a miracle you were, I couldn't help myself. I took you back to my apartment and borrowed some formula from a neighbor, and after I got you warmed up a little, you blinked your beautiful blue eyes open and looked at me, and I fell in love. You changed my life. You made me so happy, Jason. I didn't know who your father was at first. When I took you that night, I thought I was taking you from foster care or group home. It wasn't until the next morning that I changed you out of the blanket that you were swaddled in and found the note. It didn't say much, just listed your birthday and mentioned that you'd been very premature, which explained your size. The last thing was the name of your father, and if I'd known that before then, maybe I would have done things differently. Maybe not. But by then, the thought of giving up was so terrible I didn't even consider it. I put Willis's name on the birth certificate because it was the best man I knew. Maybe I'm a fool for saying it, but he was different back then. He'd be kind and sweet, and we talked about having a baby before we broke up that last time. He'd been excited even when I'd gotten pregnant before, and then he cried with me when we lost the babies. He was excited again when I called him and told him that I'd had a baby, and it was his. I knew you wouldn't remember, but those first few years were good. We were happy, all three of us. But the world is a hard place. We were so sickly, and the bills kept piling up, and Willis wasn't the man I thought he was in the end. If you hate me for not bringing you to Bruce, I'm sorry, but God help me, I'm not sorry for doing it. You are the light of my life, the best thing that ever happened to me, my pride and my joy, and all my love. I hope you never read this letter, but Jason, my sweet boy, I think I'm running out of time. I'm so sorry for leaving you. I'm so proud of you. I hope I see you graduate, but if I don't, I know you can do it. You're so smart, baby. Smarter than me. Smarter than anyone I know. I hope you go to college like you always wanted. I hope you live a good, long life. I hope you find happiness and joy, and I hope you know that I will always, always love you. I wish we had more time. All my love. Mom. When his alarm goes off in the morning, Jason wakes up with a terrible headache and tear tracks crusted on his cheeks. The letter on the bedside table tucked carefully back in its envelope. He lays there for a couple minutes, feeling hollowed out, numb. Finally, the headache forces him up, and he downs a couple of ibuprofen from the medicine cabinet before starting to get ready. He takes the longest shower of his life, spending ages just standing under the spray with his eyes closed before finally drying off and shaving, and then putting on his suit. It looks good, even though his hair is a mess, and he's pretty sure that he's knotted the tie wrong. He messes with his hair in the mirror for a minute, and then startles at the knock on the door. It's Dick. Hey, he says. You look good. Thanks, Jason mutters. The tie is wrong. Want me to fix it? Jason nods, opening the door all the way to let him in. It takes Dick less than 5 seconds to reknit Jason's tie perfectly, doing something much fancier than Jason even attempted. Good? He asks when he's done. Like Jason would even know enough about how it's supposed to look to complain. Good, he says anyway, then messes with his hair some more, growling a little when he can't get it looking presentable. I've got some hair products in my room. I can grab them if you want. Jason meets his eyes in the mirror briefly before looking away. He shrugs. Wouldn't know what to do with them. That's okay, Dick says. I can do it. Okay. Jason closes his eyes, hating how small his voice is. Dick squeezes his shoulder for a second. Be right back, then. He's not kidding. Jason barely has time to take a couple of deep breaths before he's back, carrying an armload of bottles and cans. How do you want it? Push back. Artfully messy. Jason shrugs. Whatever you think. Just neat, I guess. His mom always tried to make it look neat. Gotcha, Dick says, selecting a couple products before getting to work. Thanks, Jason says after a couple minutes, and Dick, still working, looks a little puzzled. For, the other day. Oh. Dick's hand still in his hair for a moment. Of course, Jason, any time. It was really B, though, who... Dick cuts himself off, clearing his throat awkwardly. This family is terrible at keeping secrets. Not that it matters, really. It's not like he's going to go around telling people. He feels a little weird about Dick telling Wayne, but after thinking about it for a minute, he realizes he doesn't really mind. Wayne got Batman to take care of it, after all. He's a good guy. A good man. A good dad. Maybe. He hopes this doesn't make things weird, though. He didn't do anything to me. Jason shifts awkwardly. You know that, right? I broke his hand before he did anything. Yeah, Dick says quietly. I saw the footage. Jason doesn't know how to feel about that. It's okay to still be... I know you stopped him, but however you feel about it is okay. Okay? That was still a really shitty thing to have happen to you. Yeah. Do you want to... Dick hesitates. Talk about it? Jason shakes his head minutely. Not today. Yeah, today's... I get it. I'm always willing to listen, though, okay? If you ever want to talk. They lapse into silence after that. His dick keeps working. When he's done, Jason's hair is wavy and swept back all artfully and shit. It looks good. Much better than Jason could have done on his own. Thanks, he says quietly. No problem, Dick says, squeezing his shoulder again. I was really young, but I remember how shitty this is. We've all got your back, okay? Jason nods, suddenly too choked up to speak, and lets Dick pull him into a tight hug. He's buried his face in the older boy's shoulder and eyes screwed shut, and tries to breathe. Thanks, he says when he pulls back a few moments later. Of course, Dick says. Dick's baby blue eyes are big and soft. He smiles a little. What are big brothers for? Stephanie's already waiting outside the church when they get there, wearing a simple black dress. She pulls Jason into a hug as soon as he reaches her, then holds his hand tightly. Inside the church, Wayne is talking to the priest, and Alfred is orchestrating some sort of rearrangement of the flowers. Jason makes his way to the front slowly, eyes locked on the casket. As they approached, he squeezes Steph's hand once before letting go, and walking the last few yards alone. The morticians have done a hell of a job. That's the first thing he thinks. The second is, that's a pretty callous thing to think about your mom's dead body. It's true, though. Despite the slight waxiness of her skin, she looks more alive than she has in years. There's color on her cheeks, and her hair is clean and spilling gracefully across the pillow. Jason can't stop himself from reaching out. Her hand is cold under his, and it breaks the spell. This isn't his mom. Not anymore. This is just what she left behind. He swallows hard, blinking back tears, and then turns and walks over to Wayne, who's done talking to the priest. I don't want to say anything, Jason tells him. Wayne looks up from his phone. All right, he says easily. Do you want to do a reception line, or should we just go straight to the service? A reception line? It's where everyone pays their respect to your mother, and then to you. To stand right over there. He gestures at a spot off to the side of the casket, and then people would come over and give their respects. Oh, you'd stand with me. If you want me to. Or Alfred would, or the boys. Whoever you want. You, Jason says, not really knowing why, except for some bewildering reason. The idea of having Wayne at his back for this makes him feel safe. All right, Wayne agrees quietly. They head over to the spot Wayne indicated just as people start forming a line down the aisle. Stephanie is first, and she pulls Jason into another tight hug before introducing him to her mom, who looks like a carbon copy of her daughter, just a few decades older. Nice to meet you, Miss Brown, Jason says, reaching out to shake her hand. She pulls into a hug instead. It's very nice to meet you too, Jason, she says. I'm so sorry about your loss. Jason thanks her, smiling weakly, and turns to the next person in the suddenly very long line. Stephanie really wasn't kidding when she said half of the alley would turn up. His principal is there, and most of his teachers, a bunch of kids from school, and some he'd met on the streets, the owner of the diner he used to work at, and their kids, plus nearly the whole staff, his sweeper and half his neighbors, and even a few of his mom's old boyfriends. Through it all, Wayne is a quiet, steady presence at his side, passing him a water bottle every couple of minutes and squeezing his shoulder in support whenever he's starting to get overwhelmed. He shakes a few hands of his own, but nearly everyone here in Crime Alley is born and bred. The mostly steer clear of him. Hey, Jay. A guy Jason doesn't recognize says, shaking his hand. You probably don't remember me. I used to date your mom back when you were a little tyke. Holy shit. I remember you, Jason says. You got me a Wii for Christmas. The man cracks a smile. He's older than Jason remembers, obviously. And Jason has no idea what his name is, but it's oddly touching that he came. You liked it? He asks. I loved it. Good. He nods his eyes a little bit. I'm so sorry about Kathy, kiddo. I didn't realize she'd gotten so bad. I wish I could have checked up on her when I got out. Jason nods. He doesn't really know what to say to that, so he just says, thanks. The guy tries for a smile, then reaches out to grip Jason's shoulder and looks him up and down. Jesus, you got big. Jason laughs a little, trying not to get choked up. And you look really spiffy. Your mama would have been real proud. Blinking rapidly, Jason lets the guy pull him into a quick hug. If you need anything, to get away or just whatever you need, you call me, okay? He says, voice low so Wayne, standing a step behind Jason on his right, can't hear. Jason nods minutely, accepting the scrap of paper the guy presses into his hand. Thank you, he says quietly when he pulls away. No problem, Jay, he says. And then the next person is in front of him, and Jason is shaking their hand, trying for a smile. When it's their turn, Eliza wraps him up in a tight hug. So does Colleen. Finally, the last of the attendees come through the line, and Wayne steers him to their seats in the front row, next to Dick and Tim and Alfred. The priest takes the pulpit, and Jason sort of fades out. The next thing he knows, Wayne is nudging him to his feet, and he's taking his place alongside the casket, sharing its weight with Dick and Wayne and Clark Kent. And then there's flashes. Wayne's arm around his shoulder, guiding him to the car. Dick patting him on his shoulder as he buckles Jason's seatbelt for him. Dirt falling out of his hand and down, 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 until it spills over the lid of the coffin. And then it's over. The priest is gone, and so is everyone else, save for himself and Wayne. The cold wind bites into Jason's cheeks, and he realizes they're wet. Wayne's arms wrap around Jason's shoulder, hesitant, until Jason leans into it. Wayne, Bruce, his dad, presses a kiss into Jason's hair, and he loses it, burying his face in Wayne's shoulder and bawling like a little kid. Both arms wrap around Jason. Bruce just holds him tightly, occasionally making soothing sort of sounds and rubbing circles into Jason's back. They stand there for God knows how long until Jason runs out of the tears. Sorry, he finally manages, pulling away. Bruce passes him a handkerchief. Nonsense, he says, sounding just like Alfred. It's a hard day. Jason just nods blearily, blowing his nose and clearing all the snot off his face with the handkerchief. Your coat, he says, a little dismayed when he sees the wet patch of tears and snot on his shoulder. Bruce just shrugs. It's just a coat. It's just a coat. Like the Lamborghinis at the manor are just cars. But Bruce doesn't seem upset about it. Instead, he passes Jason a fresh handkerchief and magics away the snot-covered one. Are you feeling up to the luncheon? We can skip it if you'd like. Jason gives it some serious thought. It's alright, he says eventually. I want to go. Alright, Bruce says, and pulls him back under his arms as they walk to the car. As they approach, Bruce tosses the keys to Dick, wordlessly, and slides into the back seat after Jason, letting him huddle under his arm. They pull out of the cemetery without a word, Dick and Tim silent in the front seats. Jason leans against Bruce's shoulder, eyes closed and focuses on breathing. The luncheon is much less overwhelming than the reception line was. Most of the attendees left after the service, leaving only the people who knew Jason and his mom well. Steph and Eliza and Colleen and a couple of women who are apparently all friends of his mom's, and wee guy whose name he tells Jason is Matt. Matt, it turns out, knew Jason's mom a lot longer than Jason realized. We went to high school together, he explains, a cup of coffee cradled in his hands. Lost track of time of each other for a couple years. Then the next thing I knew, she was married with a kid. Whatever happened to your old man anyway? Jason huffs a humorless laugh. That is way more complicated of a question than you realize. Yeah? Matt raises an eyebrow. Hit me with it. Willis died in prison years back. Turns out he wasn't my dad, though. Then who? Matt pales a little bit. Yep, Jason says. Exhaling audibly, Matt runs a hand through his hair. His eyes track Bruce across the room. Where the hell did Kathy? She didn't, Jason says quietly. She wasn't my mother, biologically. Matt's already wide eyes got a little wider. What? Jason scrubs at his face tiredly. Yeah, I didn't know until after. No one did, except her. She saw me on the step of a fire station when I was a baby, and I guess she wanted a kid. But she couldn't have one herself, and she knew that they wouldn't let her adopt, so... She shrugs a little. He doesn't really know how to feel about it yet. Bruce says my mother is some woman he met abroad. He's trying to track her down, I guess. There's a moment of silence, then Matt says, I'm sorry, kid. That has to be rough to come to terms with. Jason shrugs. Wayne's been good to you, though? Yeah, Jason's eyes find Bruce when he's talking to Colleen by the buffet table. Yeah, he's alright. Good, Matt says decisively. Willis was a piece of work. You deserve better. Jason nods minutely. Thanks. I was serious when I told you to call in if you're in trouble, though. If anything changes, if he hits you or gets handsy or anything, I'll take care of it, alright? I don't care if he's the richest guy on the planet. Thank you, Jason says, seriously. At this point, he's pretty certain it's never going to be necessary, but you never know. It's always good to have an exit plan. Across the room, Wayne wraps up his conversation with Colleen and starts heading their way. And that's my cue, Matt says, levering himself to his feet. He shifts carefully once he's upright, testing his left leg. That's new. Jason asks. He doesn't remember a bum leg from when he was little. Matt grimaces. Had a misunderstanding with a bat a few years back. Same one that put you in Blackgate? It's been a hell of a misunderstanding. You little shit, the man says, almost fondly, reaching out to ruffle Jason's hair. Jason dodges easily, smiling a little. Same one, he admits. Wasn't that bad to start with, probably, but you know how it is. Yeah, Jason knows. I'll see you around, kiddo, Matt says, pulling him into a gruff hug. See you, Jason says. Matt smiles at him, then nods at Bruce as he walks up. Mr. Wayne? Hello, Bruce says, brows furrowed slightly. I'm sorry I didn't catch your... Matt waves him off. I'm no one important. Take care of Jay for us, yeah? And then he limps away. What did he mean? Bruce asks him quietly. About his injury. What? Jason turns to look at him, frowning a little. He said it wasn't a bad injury, but clearly... He must have ears like a bat, Jesus. He probably needed physical therapy or surgery or something to heal, right? Bruce's frown deepens, not understanding. Then why... That shit is fucking expensive, Jason says, suddenly a little annoyed. Fucking rich people. Most people can't pay for it. So tell your pal in black to pull his fucking punches once in a while, yeah? Guys like Matt are just trying to fucking survive out there. And he fucks them up so bad, half of them end up addicts to deal with the chronic fucking pain, and the other half wind up blowing their brains out. Bruce stands stock still, expression blank. Jason swallows. Sorry, he says. I didn't mean to... No, Bruce says. It's alright. You have a more relevant perspective than most. I'm sure Batman would benefit from hearing it. Jason eyes him a little critically, trying to figure out if that was a low-key, I'll pass it on to Batman for you. He's pretty sure it was. Have you had enough to eat? Yeah, Jason starts to say, and then Eliza and Colleen come over to say goodbye, and somewhere in the middle of it, Bruce disappears, reappearing a few tables over, sitting next to Clark Kent, with his head ducked low and the reporter's hand on his knee. Alright guys, and that is the end of chapter 3 of This Kind of Weather by R_Astra. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next chapter.